I maintain that D&D players are often the best at roleplay and dirty talk because they are so all in, right? Like there is not a shadow of shame or apprehension to be like, I'm a big angry orc and I'm hitting you with my big sword. It sounds so silly, but they fucking commit, man.
Hey, welcome to Meet Me at the Spot, where pleasure meets education. This is the space where we get real about sex, relationships, and everything in between. I'm your host, Holly Eckelberger, and I'm a longtime sexual health educator, activist, and content creator. I will be your guide through conversations that blend curiosity, pleasure, and truth. Together with some amazing guests, we'll break down stigma, celebrate bodies, and learn how to embrace sexual health with confidence and joy. So get comfy because it's time for the show to get started. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meet Me at the Spot, where pleasure meets education. I'm your host, Holly, and this week I get to chat with the one and only Ashley Manta. We are delving into the intriguing relationship between THC and sexual experiences, particularly talking about orgasms. This week's discussion emphasizes the importance of open conversations about sexual wellness and the revelations that can arise from such explorations. Ashley Manta is a certified sexologist and an award-winning sex and relationship coach. She is the author of the CBD Solution, Sex, and speaks at conferences, resorts, and events around the world. Let's jump into my conversation with Ashley. Welcome, Ashley, to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. So the first question that I always like to know about people, what got you started in the work that you currently do?
I was always the awkward kid that talked about sex too much. Like from the time that I was in middle school. I was like, masturbation is awesome. Why is this a big deal? And kids were like, you can't say those things. I just never really understood. And this was not my planned career path. When I was growing up, I was convinced that I was going to be an attorney. I was a pre-law political science major in college until I switched my major to philosophy. And then I went to grad school and got a master's degree in philosophy. None of those are particularly sex focused. Although by the time I got to my master's program, I had realized that sexuality was an interest. And so I started taking like nursing classes, gender studies classes, psychology classes, sociology classes, all to do with sex and sexuality. So that helped prepare me at least a little bit. But I got my start really doing a lot of sexual violence prevention education. I was a rape crisis counselor. I was a victim advocate in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. So I was doing a lot of really intense direct service. And it was amazing work and powerful, and I'm grateful for it. And I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. That is just going to burn me out really badly. So when I moved to California in 2013, I kind of pivoted hard into the more pleasure-focused side of sex, became a phone sex operator, worked at the Pleasure Trust in West Hollywood, really got a lot of knowledge and education around teaching workshops, facilitating groups, helping people access pleasure. And then I decided to start working for myself back in 2015. So it's been 10 years of owning my own business and hustling for my own clients and opportunities. And now I'm a certified sexologist, and it makes me really happy.
That is amazing. I always love asking this question because everybody's journey is so unique, so just magical. Like some people get started like I never talked about sex. I grew up like super ultra religious, and then as I became an adult, and some people are like, no, I've been that girl for the longest time. And I just absolutely love hearing about folks' journeys. When you were describing being the girl in middle school, be like, yeah, masturbation's amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, how would have I reacted? Because like, I was like putting myself back in middle school and like, yeah, like I masturbated, but I didn't know that's what it was because, you know, we didn't have the internet back in those days. And I went to Catholic school, so we didn't really talk about it that much. And my parents were like cool, but they weren't like that cool. They weren't like super sex positive. So I was like, man, how would I have reacted to some girl in my class be like, yeah, masturbation's amazing. I'd have been like, yes. What is masturbation? Like, what
I
is
was
that?
heavily bullied and ostracized,
Oh
so it,
yeah.
it did not go over well. And the reason that I was talking about it was because I stumbled upon a copy of Betty Dodson's book, Sex for One, and read it.
Mm.
And that's where I learned the word vulva and clitoris and how powerful masturbation could be. And then I was lucky enough to be mentored by her before she passed away.
Oh
So
wow.
I really think that she informed my early interest in sex and pleasure.
I'm always curious because there's lots of different paths that folks can take as far as talking about sexual health. And so you said you're a sexologist. Can you talk a little bit about what that means? Like, what does a sexologist do? What does that practice look like?
Absolutely. Different ones do different things. Some people are more research focused. Some people are more educational focused in terms of like K through 12 or college age kids, like teaching courses. I focus exclusively on adults, mostly women and women identified folks and couples. So I'm a sex and relationship coach. I work with couples a lot on desire discrepancy. I help them with communication, helping them get really clear about what they want and how to share that information with a partner. I teach workshops at various places around the world, from hedonism in Jamaica to I just got back from a cruise to Greece and Italy with desire, and that's like a lifestyle cruise. So I got to teach some classes there. And then in a couple weeks, next week, I'm flying to Los Angeles to teach some live demo classes for FWB, which is this really amazing membership sex positive organization in downtown LA. So I do a lot of teaching out in the world. I speak at colleges and universities like for Sex Week, and then I teach a lot of classes online. So it's kind of a mishmash of different things and presenting at conferences and things like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's really cool. Like that you have some different avenues. Um, I always really admire folks who go into like the counseling or coaching aspect of this work. I'm like, oh, I could do that, and then I thought, no, I could, but that's not for me. And so I always have a lot of admiration for folks um, who do that level of work. Um, because it isn't for everyone. You need to really have a passion for it because you are helping folks through something super super vulnerable, right? Like not everyone
Definitely.
just likes to talk about sex on the internet. um I mean, some of us do, but not everybody does. And so I think that's really really cool. So like if someone is coming out to you, for example, and maybe they are having XYZ issue, how does that typically go? What does that look like for someone who is coming for some help around that?
I get so excited when it happens because coaching is my favorite part of what I do. Like, I love teaching, I love educating, I wrote a book, all the things, but like, you can be so specific with a client, either, one on one or with a couple, and you can really get very clear about what their concerns are and dive deep. And it becomes like human puzzles that I get to solve, and my ADHD brain
Mm.
loves that. So when people come to me, typically they find my information about coaching either through Instagram or through my website. I have a link to put yourself on my calendar for a discovery call because I want to make sure that we're a good fit to work together on both sides. I want to make sure
Mhm.
that you are a client that I will enjoy helping, and I want to make sure that I am the coach who will be best suited to help you. And so we do 30 minutes of just kind of chit chatting about what the concerns are. I give them some like basic, kind of shoot from the hip free advice of like, if you decide not to move forward with coaching, like, here, let me just give you like a quick download that will hopefully help whatever's going on for you, kind of on a surface level. And then if they do want to move forward, then I walk them through like the pricing and how I like to structure my coaching. I like to work with people for at least 3 months because it
Mhm.
really takes time to like get through all the layers of shame and ingrained patterns and start to make the changes, and then kind of see those changes take effect and take root. So I like to see them through that process as much as possible.
I think a lot of people feel a level of pressure when they like meet with somebody and they're like, I have to keep going with this because I've just talked about this for 30 minutes and now I feel like I have to keep going. But I love how you kind of leave the door open. Like, you're not getting nothing if you say, this isn't what I'm looking for. This actually wasn't the route I thought I was going to go down, or this isn't for me right now, for example. But you do give them something, right?
Yeah.
Some information, which I think is really great because it helps folks who maybe not be ready for that, like that coaching piece, that in-depth coaching piece, but maybe they just need a little something to get them moving in the right direction, which I think is really awesome. That's so cool. Um, I'm gonna ask you because this is what really drew me to you on social media. Um, I think I came across you on Threads like a while ago, and I saw your username, and I was like, oh, we have to be friends. So, for the listeners, can you tell us a little bit about your online persona and what that means for you and what that really looks like?
Absolutely. So I am widely known as the CannaSexual. My Instagram handle is at CannaSexual. And people hear that and they're like, oh, is that like a sexual orientation? And I'm like, no, it is definitely not. It's, if anything, it is very much a way of approaching sex in altered states. So when I first started, it was specifically how to mindfully and deliberately combine sex and cannabis to deepen intimacy and enhance pleasure, whether you're solo or partnered. It has since expanded into intoxicating and non-intoxicating forms of cannabis, and then even more into psychedelics, whether LSD, MDMA, psilocybin, ketamine to some extent, but less so. But I was running into clients that were like, "Oh yeah, I smoke weed, but also I do all of these other things." And I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about those." And
Yeah.
I had gotten a lot of experience with those things myself, living in California. So my intention with helping people combine sex and altered states is to do it from a very harm reduction, grounded place of one, a lot of people don't realize that cannabis can vastly improve your sex life, especially if you're someone with a vulva.
Mm-hmm.
I had experienced pain with penetration due to adolescent trauma pretty much my entire life up until my late 20s. And I applied a topical THC oil to my pussy for the first time and had penetrative sex without pain, and realized that there were no sex educators talking about sex and cannabis back then. This is circa like 2014 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So that became the thing I kind of became known for. And it expanded into suppositories and smoking and vaping and edibles and really geeking out on how those things can really enhance intimacy and also reduce the things that are getting in the way of pleasure, connection, intimacy, whether it's being in your head, having a lot of performance anxiety, feeling uncomfortable in your body for whatever reason, whatever that concern is, cannabis can help address that when it's used intentionally. Just smoking a mystery joint that you found under a couch cushion is not going to do the job. So a lot of my work is like, okay, I'm glad that you're interested. Let me help you do this as deliberately as possible. And then that expanded into psychedelics when I started to realize that like a lot of people, especially on the West Coast, enjoyed doing some mushrooms and going to a party, doing some MDMA and going to a play party. And I was like, oh, okay, we need to have some conversations about consent. We need to talk about autonomy. We need to talk about how to make sure that you're dosing yourself properly and testing your supplies. And so that really just became like a lot of my work from like 2014 to 2021 or so. I even wrote a
That's
book.
amazing. Oh, tell me about your book. Oh,
It's
first of
called
all,
the
it's
CBD
so pretty.
Solution Sex. Thank you. The publisher is Chronicle Books, and they are known for like coffee table books. So it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I can take zero credit at all for the design of the book. I only was responsible for the content, but they did a really good job. And Snoop Dogg started a media company in the cannabis space called Mary Jane, and they reached out to me to publish the second book in their 3-part series, the CBD Solution, colon, living, wellness, and sex. So I was able to publish a book in 2020, which was a terrible time to publish a book, it turns out, because I was supposed to have this epic launch party with the other 2 authors of the other 2 books, and like Snoop was gonna DJ, and it was gonna be this badass Hollywood thing, and none of that happened because the pandemic happened.
Oh.
And to this day, 5 years later, people are like, "Oh, you wrote a book?" I'm like, "Yep, I did."
Oh,
I
no.
did.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a big party for you. That's what I've decided
Thank
now.
you.
We're just having a big party now. And we'll play lots of Snoop music.
That was
Sorry, I
excellent.
don't have connections to Snoop, otherwise I'd totally help you out. But no, that's so cool. And I love that you talk about something that, a lot of folks are find talking about sex to be very taboo, right? And talking about like enjoying altered mindsets and altered states, right? Like being high, being under the influence, as also taboo and shameful. Like you're not supposed to talk about these things. And so to combine
And I
two
just
things,
mashed them together and turned
yeah,
it into a career.
and you're like, let me take these two things that everybody does like wants to avoid, and let's just smash it together. And so, and I think it's so cool because a lot of people don't talk about it. So like, I I came up in this working mostly with youth. So I worked as a health teacher. So I definitely didn't talk a lot about any positives because I wasn't allowed to, right? And so
Sure.
as far as sex and as far as using substances. So um but a lot of people do find that, as you said, right, that um things that were painful, like sexual acts that may have been painful, are not as painful, and checking in with that. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this openly with other guests or on this podcast. My sisters and I did a podcast episode where we all three of us got high and we recorded a podcast episode. Um, but I love the orgasms when under the influence of THC. Like, let me tell you,
Oh yeah.
what? Why did nobody tell me about this years ago? I, I'm mad that I didn't know about you. And then I was like, wait, what? It's the greatest. But yeah, but kind of learning about that and knowing, what doing it intentionally. I love how you worded it that way, right? Like being intentional about it. Um, and not just being like, oh, randomly I'm going to do this and let's see how things go, right? But, and then educating folks about, the safety aspect of it too, which is really, really important because, I think a lot of people, especially with like weed and THC, people are like, you can't get addicted. It's not harmful. It's this, it's that, right? But it can be harmful, and it can lead to some harmful things if you're not being careful. And so that education piece around it, I think, is chef's kiss. That is so so beautiful. That's amazing. That's cool. I'm curious, like around your process of writing your book, like what are some interesting things that you were finding out, like as you were kind of in the process of writing, and what sort of things did you learn?
So the fun part about writing my book when I did in my career is that I had already been writing about sex and cannabis for 4 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I had published over 200 articles. I had done podcast interviews. I'd presented at conferences. I spoke at ASECT. Like I did all the things. So that was really handy because I only had 3 weeks to write the book from start to
Wow.
finish. Like they had me submit an outline and it was approved, and from the time that it was approved until the time it was due was 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks and like 3 days. So I had no time, but thankfully I had been writing the book in my head for the previous 4 years. So I was really able to kind of like plug in and go. And thankfully I had a lot of friends who were thought leaders in either cannabis or sexuality or both. So, I had in my little Rolodex, God, I'm dating myself with that reference. Um, in my contacts list, right, I had a Harvard MD who had done a lot of research. I had people who owned businesses in cannabis. I had people that had done studies on sex and cannabis for their master's thesis, Amanda Mosier. I had sexuality educators from Tristan Taramino, Carol Queen, Betty Dodson. Like, I had all of these different, like, badasses that I could just call up and be like, I need a quote now. And
Yeah.
that allowed me to write the book really quickly. So, I learned less about sex and cannabis in the writing of the book and more about the importance of having a robust network of fellow nerds who are willing to give you a quick turnaround on quotes.
It's so nice to have folks that you can just call up and be like, I need you to give me a really good quote about sex, about cannabis, or about both. Pick
Yep.
whichever one you want. Maybe send a few by
Oh, yeah.
next week. Great. Awesome. It's always
Yeah.
great
The
to have
clock
that
is
network, right?
ticking. Totally.
3 weeks. Ashley, what? That is the craziest thing I think I've ever heard.
35,000 words. 35,000 words in 3 weeks. It was wild.
Yeah, that's insane. I know friends who have written books and months, year, more, right? To go through that process. But it's really nice, like you said, you had like a really good foundation. This wasn't something you had never written about before that you just, were interested in. You made a couple tweets or something, but
Yeah.
you had written about it. You had a lot of that knowledge. But still, even under that, like those circumstances, that is wild to me. I give you so much credit for that.
Thank you. It was a feat. I will not downplay the lack of sleep that I got in those 3 weeks and how important it was that I have ADHD and really function well under a lot of pressure. Like that was
Hmm.
the only way I was going to be able to write a book was to have that kind of turnaround time. If I had months and months and months, I would never do it. But that lit a fire under my ass. I had a really nice author fee for the book. And so I was like, yeah, for a 5-figure book deal, I will get my shit together. I will put everything else on the back burner and I will do nothing but this for 3 weeks. Sure.
Yeah. Yep. Sold. Fine.
Sold.
And so you were writing your book in 2020?
In 2019.
Okay. I was going to say, oh, because you had the pandemic. You were just bored in the house, You're just stuck in the house.
Mm.
But no, you were not. You were living your best life. You were living your best life. And then you were like, we're going to have this dope ass party when this book comes out. Oh, man. Oh, damn it, COVID. You ruined it.
I had so much cool shit on deck for 2020. I was supposed to go to Israel and speak at a conference and like
Oh,
keynote the women in cannabis brunch. I was supposed to have my book launch and then like a book tour and all of those things. There was so much stuff that was going to happen in 2020 and none of it happened.
no.
It's
But
okay.
look at you. You're still like killing it and you're out here providing such a necessary topic of education for folks in this space. So I want to pick your brain a little bit more just because I'm nosy and I'm
Sure.
curious. And that's what a podcast host does. That's why I have my own show. Um, so I want to know a little bit more about some highlights for folks. So, for those who are listening, what are some kind of highlight things that folks should know around having sex, whether it's solo or with a partner or partners, and using substances, whether it be THC or other substances?
Absolutely. So, the most important thing, I think, is to try whatever it is that you're planning to try in a solo sex setting
Mm-hmm.
first. If it's psychedelics, I encourage you to have a trip sitter, but a non sexual trip sitter that's just kind of there to make sure you're cool, having a good time. But for cannabis, if you're planning to use an edible or a topical or you're going to smoke, like take whatever it is that you want to use in a partnered situation and do it on your own first and masturbate because that will give you a really nice baseline for how does this work for me? How long does it take to kick in? What can I expect out of this experience? And that way, when it comes to like game time, if you will, with a partner, you don't have as many variables to sort through if something is off. Because if you start with a partner, you don't know if it's not working, if it's the partner that's not working, or the substance that's not working, or the combination of the partner and the substance. So there's a lot of question
Mm-hmm.
marks. But if you go in going, oh, okay, I know that if I take 2 puffs of this strain this long before sexy fun times begin, it does all of these wonderful things to my body and it really makes orgasm accessible for me and it heightens my pleasure. And then you get with a partner and you're like, why isn't this working? It's like, oh, okay, so it could be the partner. What's going on with you guys? Have you had a fight recently? Are you not feeling super safe? Like, why is your nervous system not letting you relax in this situation? So it gives you a little bit more of a roadmap, and I think that's important. I also think it's absolutely crucial in a partnered setting to have lengthy conversations before, during, and after, but especially before when you're sober. What are you planning to take? How much are you planning to take? What are you expecting it to do for you? How do you want them to take care of you if something goes sideways? If you start having a panic attack or getting nauseous or dizzy or dissociated, do you want them to roll you up like a sushi burrito, or do you want them to leave you the fuck alone and bring you a drink of water? Like, get clear on that, get clear on what consent looks like, having the conversation, yes, I want to do this with you, have it again right before you consume, and then how can you be checking in with me to make sure that the consent is ongoing throughout the experience? Because sometimes, we think that we want a thing and we start doing the thing and we're like, oh, I don't want this anymore, but we lose our words. So can we tap
Mm-hmm.
out? Can we have some nonverbal signals worked out? Because it is better to do that work on the front end and have those conversations and be mindful about those little details than to be scrambling in the midst, or to be, find yourself in a situation that you're not happy about and afterward look back with like, oh, I didn't like that at all. So I am a compulsive over communicator. It's part of my ADHD charm. And I overthink so you don't have to, but I tell people, like, here are all of the things that you need to talk about, and it's a long list.
That that's so helpful. I think that's really great because as I said in my previous work working with youth, the message is very watered down and generalized. Like someone under the influence cannot consent, right? But we're talking about two consenting people who are openly discussing and communicating about the ways they're going to enjoy sex, and that may be using substances, whatever that is, right? Um, and what does that look like? And how do we use our words when we feel like we can't use our words? How do we, when we start to feel like, whoa, this is feeling different than maybe it did before? And I don't know how to say, like, this is it. I need to stop. I'm having a panic attack. I'm having, like, whatever kind of thing, right? That's so, so important to set that groundwork. And I love that you mentioned that. Like, make it almost like so much. Right? Like I would rather be like I'm the same way. My ADHD works just in the same way. Like I would rather be so over prepared and have like a checklist than be wondering and then kind of getting anxious like during, right? And then
For sure.
afterwards not knowing like how to process. So do you talk about a lot too? Like after, I think afterwards is important too, right? Like there's some communication that should
Absolutely.
be happening after. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there's, the immediate aftercare of like, how do you want to come back down to earth? And then there's later that night into next day aftercare of like, how do you want to be checked in with, and just made sure that it feels like a whole complete experience. And, like you said, I came up in the sexual violence prevention world. I was also a very hard line. You do not mix substances and sex. You can't consent when you're intoxicated, and you can't. Like, I
yeah,
want to be so crystal clear. You cannot consent when you're intoxicated. If I am drunk or I am high on whatever and I meet some dude at a party, I can't consent if he's like, hey, let's go upstairs. Can't do it. However, with a partner that I trust, when we've negotiated it previously, there is a little bit more nuance in that
yeah.
than some rando you tripped over at a party. So, like, I really try to make that distinction super clear because I am not suggesting that everyone should just like go out and get high and have sex. Like that is
Yeah.
quite the opposite of what I recommend. And that's
Yes.
why I encourage so much conversation and, due diligence, if you will, so that you're setting yourself and your partner up for success and making sure you both feel seen, heard, and respected from start to finish.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you worded it in that way. And made it so clear for the listeners, right? Is like definitely not on this podcast, on anything that I post or anything that Ashley posts. Are we certainly suggesting that folks like get drunk, get high, get under the influence, and rock it out. Another good point that you brought up, that trust piece. It's gotta be there, right? That has to be key.
Oh, one of my like kind of golden rules is I wouldn't recommend mixing altered states with sexuality with someone that you've been with for less than 6 months. Because for a lot
Yeah.
of reasons, it takes that long to establish like baseline trust. You want to have at least had like one fight or disagreement so you know how they show up in less than ideal circumstances. And you want to have time to data gather the fact that they are as committed to your consent and pleasure and bodily autonomy as you are. And it takes time to do that. You also, any kind of altered state, but especially things like MDMA, mushrooms, with someone that you barely know, it can create a false sense of intimacy. Oh my God, I'm in love with you. You hear this all the time about people that go to Burning Man and they meet somebody that they trip with and they fuck and they're like, and we got married and I left my spouse and we moved in together as soon as we got back from the playa. Like,
Yeah.
look, respect, but I don't hear about a lot of those relationships working out. And it's because you cannot just like artificially inject intimacy in a brand new connection. Like that takes time to develop the scaffolding of a trusting relationship. And so I know that 6 months is just an arbitrary number, but like that feels like a good starting place. Longer is better, arguably, but at least that long, I think, best practices. Now, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to not listen to me and be like, Ash, love you, fuck off. I'm going to get high and go to a play party. Okay, cool. You do you. But like, at least I did my part to let you know that there are better ways to do it.
Yeah, a lot of folks, I know in my spaces, people are like, if you're going into all these schools and talking to young people about sex, how come young people are having so much unprotected sex? I'm like, because I don't follow them after school, and are standing there going, did you remember to use a condom? Here, I brought one for you. You didn't ask them if they've been tested? Like I'm. First of all, that's a crime. I'm pretty sure that's like an SVU episode waiting to happen. Second of all,
Right?
it is not my job or responsibility other than to educate folks about this is best practices. This is how to be as safe as possible. This is the ways if you're looking to avoid unintended pregnancy or STIs. These are the steps that I can give you. What you do after you leave that educational session, that is up to you. I want to go back to something you said in the intro because
Yep.
I have never in my entire life met somebody who used to be a phone sex operator, and I love that so much. Like I am coming off of like this week's cold and I have like this raspy voice. Not phone sex operator raspy voice, but I am fascinated to know a little bit more about that if you don't mind sharing.
Of course. I used to be wildly intimidated by dirty talk. I didn't know what
Hmm.
to say. I felt really awkward. I was constantly searching for words. I would get all blushy and shy when I would actually try to say something I wanted out loud. Like it was hard for me. And two things really worked in my favor to help get me through that. One is when I was in college, I dated a Dungeons and Dragons playing nerd.
Yes.
And I maintain that D&D players are often the best at roleplay and dirty talk because they are so all in, right? Like there is not a shadow of shame or apprehension to be like, I'm a big angry orc and I'm hitting you with my big sword. It sounds so silly, but they fucking commit, man. Like, and they do the voices. And, like, now we have things like Dimension 20 and Critical Role, where you have actual voice actors, like, showing just how absurd a D&D game can look among nerds. And I love that so much. And so when you have somebody who will, like, so just, like, boldly commit to what they're doing, it helps give you permission to do the same in an erotic context. So that helped a lot. The other thing that helped was being a phone sex operator. I just kind of threw myself in the deep end of sexual improv, and I absolutely had a baptism by fire. Like, all of a sudden my phone is ringing. I have no idea what this person is going to ask for. I am on the clock. I'm trying to make money. And so you just kind of like, phew, okay, guess we're learning. Like, throw me in the pool. And I I floundered a little bit at first, but, like, it came to me and it came together, and I picked up a lot of helpful tips and tricks and strategies to make life easier for folks who are kind of approaching it. And Dirty Talk became one of my signature workshops that I teach. It was one of the classes I just taught on the Desire cruise that I was on in Greece and Italy. And I love it so much. I love helping people find their voice and share their desires, and debunking some of the things that I think get in the way of this idea that it has to sound like a porn script, or that you have to put on this specific voice. Like, you can just use your voice. You are the sexy. Like, whatever you do, ostensibly, if your partner is with you, it's because they find you sexy and attractive and appealing. You don't have to put on a persona to make yourself sexier. You can just be like, it would feel so good to have your cock inside me right now. It can just be that simple. Now, that said, it can be really fun and permission giving to create a persona for yourself, especially if you're someone who has some, like, shyness and hangups around self-expression. You throw on a wig and an outfit, and all of a sudden, like, I have a red wig, and when I'm wearing that one, I am Scarlet, and she is sassy as fuck, and she has this, like, very kind of courtesan energy. She's a seductress. She's a witch. And, like, I channel that and I go to that place. And then if I do something that doesn't, like, resonate with my partner, they're not rejecting me, they're rejecting Scarlet. And so that can be tweaked, right? Like, it doesn't feel as personal when it doesn't go the way that you think it's going to. And that, like, separation can be really helpful for people.
Yes, I never thought of that. Like, that person putting on that persona. Also, my brother-in-law is, like, big into D&D, and now I'm gonna be like, tee. He's gonna be like, what are you laughing about? I'll be like, I know. I learned a little something about you and your little buddies. I know a little something, a little secret. And she's like, okay, weirdo. So, no, I love that though. That's such a good way to think about it. Cause, like, I feel like anytime you see, like, anything about, phone sex operators, they're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And it's like, yeah, if that's, like, makes you feel sexy, like, go for it, right? I always think about, and I'm trying to think about what movie it is, where, like, Anne Hathaway plays a character, and she's a phone sex operator, like, on the low key, and she does, like, all of these crazy voices. But I love that you teach you teach a workshop about this now. Like, you went from, like, I have no idea how to dirty talk, like, this is so weird and awkward, to, like, oh, I just casually teach a workshop on a cruise. I
Right.
literally love that. That's amazing. That's so cool.
I'm very grateful. And I'm extra grateful that my current partner has his undergrad degree in English literature. So I call him the Shakespeare of sexting. And he and I have some of the most prolific, filthy, like, elaborate role play and dirty talk scenarios that I've ever experienced with another human. And it's just like, we just turn on the tap. Like, it's, where do we want to go tonight? We pivot mid fantasy. He's like, you know what, this isn't working. Let's try something else. We're both, like, super,
Yes.
yes and about it. Like, great, let's do that. And it has been so much fun to, like, be in a relationship with someone who can meet me there. And even in some places, like, encourage me to grow and stretch and be like, ooh, okay, well, what if I just dive into this fantasy? It's not my particular fantasy, but we'll do two big things. We one talk about, is this for you or is it for me? Which is really,
Mm.
really helpful because if it's for you, I don't give a fuck what we're talking about. Like, I'm happy to chameleon into whatever's going to turn you on and get you off. If it's for me, then I have some opinions about like the trajectory we go on. And we also differentiate between playing and planning. So
Mm.
if this is just a fantasy, again, balls to the wall, doesn't matter. Let's, bring in all the things. If we're planning, if we're dirty talking something that you want to happen in real life, again, I have opinions. I have thoughts, I have boundaries, I have needs, wants, and desires, and we're going to need to like close the box a little bit more.
Oh, that's so smart. I never really kind of thought about it in those different areas that you talked about. Like, is this for you or is this for me? I think a lot of times I think, I don't want to speak for other people. I'll just speak for myself. I'm like, no, this is for us. This is for both of us. Um, and being okay and having that like level of, again, goes back to like that trust and communication that you've talked a lot about, to be able to say like midway, like, can we pivot, because actually this isn't doing it. Especially if it's supposed to be for me and I'm not feeling it, we got to switch things up. And being okay with saying that. So I think a lot of times there's a lot of people who think, and I've heard this feedback a lot, especially from women, if I tell my partner what I want or what I don't want, it's gonna ruin like the mood, it's gonna ruin everything. I'm like, how is the mood getting better by you continuing to engage in something that isn't working for you, that isn't making you happy or satisfied?
We're so socialized to endure, like on every possible level, but especially in sexual scenarios, to just like
Mm-hmm.
go along to get along. And, one thing that I'm very so grateful for with my boyfriend is he's so receptive to that kind of feedback of like, this isn't working for me. You know what? I need this to be different. He's like, and he'll go out of his way to say, thank you so much for telling me because I'm putting my heart and soul into this direction. And if it's not working for you, then like, what the fuck am I doing? So thank you
Yeah.
for helping me recalibrate and aim it more toward what's going to work for you because then my efforts are not going, in vain.
Oh, yes. First of all, we love that. I don't know your boyfriend, but he seems pretty legit. Um, he sounds
We
he
love.
sounds like a dream. And so
He's
that
Canadian. I
that
had to outsource. American men are
oh,
terrible.
that explains
Sorry, American
everything.
men listening. Not all of you are terrible, but a lot of the ones I've
Enough
met.
of you.
So, yeah. Canadian men have been excellent, and mine in particular.
Before you go all not all men up in my comments, we I don't care.
Right.
Uh, then we're definitely talking about you. As we kind of get ready to wrap up, one of the things I always like to hear from my guests is a piece of advice that you want to impart on to the listeners.
It's hard to pick just one. Can I give you two?
Yeah, please.
Okay. One is slow down and use lube. That's like just baseline sex educator. If you learn nothing else from me, like slow down and use lube. But two is something that I learned from my mentor, Betty Dodson, which is sexuality and eroticism and intimacy do not have an expiration date. Like people, especially in their 20s and 30s, think that sex just ends when you're 40 or 50. And I am here to tell you, I'm only 39, but I am just getting started. I am feral, I am empowered, and I have, Betty died when she was 91, masturbating until the day she died. Joan Price is 79. She's an amazing senior sexuality educator. Like, you have time. Your sex life does not have an expiration date, and you have so much time to figure out what works for you. You do not need to be in scarcity. Like, be in a place of abundance and honor where you're at this point in your life because you will never be here again.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's something about like late 30s. I just turned 40 a couple months ago and I'm like, I'm married with a whole child. And also I'm like, hello, friends. So yeah, no, there is some like renewed energy that comes to you. And yeah. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but if you want to share with the listeners ways that they can follow you, support you, get in touch with you.
Absolutely. I would love that. You can find me on Instagram at CannaSexual. That's CannaSexual. My website is ashleymanta.com. That's Manta like Santa. You can find me on Substack, which I think is ashleymanta.substack.com. The title of my blog is So That Happened, because that's been kind of the underscoring mood for my entire life and career. And I work with people one on one, mostly women one on one, and then I work with couples. And I would love to work with you. I have some spots available in my coaching roster between now and the end of the year. And due to gestures broadly, the world, I am offering a sliding scale payment plan for folks. So you can really get in wherever it's most comfortable for you. Like if you can pay my full fee, which is not cheap, I would love that. That helps me subsidize the people that can't pay as much. But if you are having financial hardship, I really still want to be able to work with you. So get at me and like, let's work it out.
I love that. That's amazing. Thank you, Ashley, so much for being on the show and for sharing so much great information. Everybody go follow Ashley. She's amazing. She posts really, really great stuff. And definitely we'll have to have you back for some more fun.
Thank you. I would love that.